Hey there, everybody. It's me, your buddy Dave from thedarkstuff.com and the Dark Stuff channel here on YouTube. Thanks a lot for checking out my newest video. So this week's video is a review of the recent Speedy Ortiz show at Slowdown with openers Spacemoth and UN-T.I.L. I'm going to be filling this video with clips and photos from the show. So sadly for you, you're not going to get to see my bald head and my gorgeous face in this video. Apologies to those one or two of you that are actually upset about that. The band formed in maybe 2011, 2012 or so, although I never heard of them till 2014 when they put out the album Major Arcana. And ever since that time, they've been a pretty consistent staple on my radio show. I've played them over the years quite a bit. I've always thought that Speedy Ortiz kind of sounded like a cross between Dinosaur Jr. and Liz Phair. And those are two of my favorite artists, so that's always been a positive. Now, this particular show was opened by a group called Spacemoth, who I'd never heard of before, but spoiler alert, it became a big fan afterwards. And UN-T.I.L, which is a local band made up of high school students who have graduated from the Omaha Girls Rock program, and I'll show you clips of them in a minute. So the Speedy Ortiz tour, they're out there in support of the band's newest album, Rabbit Rabbit, which is the first since their 2018 album, Twerp Verse. And by the way, that album, Twerp Verse, was mixed at ARC Studios in Omaha. And it was kind of funny because the band did a little shout out to Omaha, which I'm sure they do in every show. And usually people in the crowd are like, hey, they said my town's name, you know. And the people in Omaha were very indifferent to that. They were just like, oh, yeah. Great, you know, you said our town's name. They thought that was so funny that we didn't really care. But they actually talked about how they really liked Omaha, and they spent a lot of time here when they, worked on that record. Okay, so back to the concert. The first band that played was a group called UN-T.I.L, and this is a group of three high school girls, and they play, a form of punk rock that would probably, you'd say their closest contemporaries would maybe be groups like the Linda Lindas or Horse Girl, something like that. They are graduates of what is known as the Omaha Girls Rock program. So Omaha Girls Rock is a nonprofit group. Works with young girls, teaches them music. Their mission statement is this. It says Omaha Girls Rock was founded in Omaha, Nebraska in 2011 with the purpose of empowering youth, specifically those who identify as girls or femmes, to find their voice through music education, performance, and creativity. My experience with Omaha Girls Rock is usually when I used to be the stage manager for the Maha Music Festival. They usually had a performance, like the graduates would come on with their original song and play that original song in front of the whole festival. That was my main experience with them. So UN-T.I.L's been making music for a little while. And, look, truth be told, I did actually know the band's parents. This is a first for me. I mean, it shows just how exactly old I am now because I actually did know parents of two of the girls in the band. So in addition to playing their own original music, which they have made available on Apple Music and Spotify, so far nothing physical, just 2 EPs on the streaming. They also did cover versions by La Tigra, and I'm 99% sure they did a Pixies cover, although I wasn't taking notes, so I'm just doing that from memory. right after Until's set, there's a brief break, and then Spacemoth came on. And let me just tell you something. I was not prepared for how much I was going to like this group. And I feel like an idiot for a number of reasons that I didn't know who these guys were beforehand, okay? So Spacemoth is from the Bay Area, and I literally knew nothing about them before the show. I've done a little research since that time. The band is basically a project of this woman, Miriam, I'm going to butcher her last name, Qudus, Kudus. We'll just call her Miriam. So Miriam is a producer and engineer in the Bay Area, has a studio, and in addition to working with Speedy Ortiz, has also worked with groups like Tune Yards, T.I.L and the Get Down, Stay Down, Allison Crutchfield, Sasami, Kronos Quartet, among others, as an engineer. This is her musical project. I thought they were excellent. Right as soon as they came on with the droning keyboards and the guitar and everything, it reminded me so much of Stereolab, and I loved Stereolab. Now, my Stereolab knowledge goes to the late 90s. I saw them 3 times back in the 90s, and I had every record up to, I don't know, I can't remember the name of the album, the last one I bought, but it was in the late 90s. And I'm not very familiar with their 2000s stuff, maybe a little dots and loops. Well, apparently, if I'd been a little more knowledgeable, I would have known that Spacemoth was definitely influenced by Stereolab, because the name of the band comes from a Stereolab song on the 2001 album Sound Dust. So I didn't know that at the time because, like I said, I that was one of the Stereolab albums I actually don't have. So yeah, I felt a little stupid, because later on it was like, oh yeah, I'm telling you that you remind me of this band that you clearly know that you sound like because you named your band after it. But whatever. I mean, I can be forgiven for not understanding. So I loved the entire set. I thought they were incredible. And after the show, I went and talked to Miriam for a minute and bought their the LP for No Past, No Future, which came out in 2022. And I wish I had known that at the time because, wow, I would have been a fan from Jump Street. I mean, seriously, it was very, very, very good. I have subsequently heard the record a few times, and it's also quite excellent. I was kissing the ground with the trigger finger in the sunlight. They told me the candles are lucky. If it never gets to light the darkness, never gets to light the darkness. So next up was Speedy Ortiz, and it's funny because I've seen Speedy Ortiz a couple of other times during the Until set, the first band. Again, they were in high school. They talked about seeing Speedy Ortiz at the Maha Music Festival a while back, and it was the 2015 festival. And they actually saw them at that thing, and they were like young kids, like elementary school kids. So they were super psyched to be playing on a bill with Speedy Ortiz. Now, I talked to them a little bit afterwards, and I pointed out that I was the stage manager of that show of that year at Maha on the side stage, and so I worked with Speedy Ortiz on that one. And I relayed the fact that in all the years that I worked at Maha, and I'm not there with them anymore. I'm now with the Outlandia Festival, but all the years that I worked there was only one band in the entire time. So what happens is the bands check in and then they go back to their trailer and hang out and stuff, or they roam the festival grounds, or they watch the other bands, whatever. There's nothing required of you until you have to be on stage. So a lot of bands just go back to the trailer and hang out, party, whatever. And they're just supposed to come back at a certain time. Okay, I need you back here at 2:45, right? And everyone always is back at their designated time. I've never had an issue with it, except once. And that was with Speedy Ortiz. And that was because the drummer was late. And we just didn't know where he was. And I ran back to the trailer to get him. And he was just like, didn't realize what time it was or whatever. So, I mean, long story short, it was absolutely nothing. I mean, the guy just lost track of time. The funny thing is, that guy's not even in the band anymore, right? The lineup of Speedy Ortiz has changed quite a bit since 2015. And I was kind of unaware of this fact. When I saw them in 2015 and 2016, I don't think anyone except for Sadie Dupois, and I've always hesitated to pronounce her name in case I say it wrong, anyone except Sadie, who's the leader, the guitar player, the singer, none of them are still there. It's a completely new lineup since the last time I saw them. So the next time I saw them was in 2016 when they were doing a tour with The Good Life. That's Tim Kasher from Cursive. That's his other band. And they did a set. That was the last time I saw them. Okay. And then in the interim, Sadie started working on some solo projects. The sound was a little different, had a little more of an electronic sound, but it still sounded like Sadie's music. I mean, you could still tell it was the same person. Anyways, after that solo album, her first one, Speedy Ortiz did come back. They did the Twerp verse record. Her second album, Haunted Painting, was my number 9 of that year in my best of 2020. And I'm going to show you an old clip from that. Okay, now, keep in mind, this was during the pandemic. Okay, so forgive the hair and the beard. I look like shit in it, but I just wanted to point out this one little thing because I called into question whether Speedy Ortiz was even going to continue. It's a great record because I do really like Sadie's sound. I like her approach. I like the way she phrases things and stuff. I'm just wondering if this is a prelude to ending Speedy Ortiz, because if she could do that herself, you know, what do you need the full band for? I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, all the old elements of Speedy Ortiz are still there. It was still kind of that Dinosaur Jr. meets Liz Phair sort of vibe. A little bit more proggy in the instrumentation, like whoever she has playing with them now, the current bass player, drummer, guitarist. Maybe they're a little bit more musician-y than the other guys. I don't know, that played in the band before. It's hard for me to say. It still sounds like Speedy Ortiz to me, and that's a bad way to describe a band is to say they sound like themselves. I mean, that's just weird. So, I mean, the band played really well. It was extremely loud. I mean, it was like my ears were ringing all day the next day. I don't wear earplugs, and I know you could lecture me about that, but it's a choice. Anyways, my ears were ringing the entire next day, and I think it was because there weren't as many people there to absorb the sound. Like, that volume was right for maybe 200-300 people, but when it was about 50 or 60, which is all that showed up, it was just blistering. Okay, it was very, very, very loud, and yeah, it was a little bit of light attendance. I don't know what the real reason for that would be. I would have preferred the show be at Reverb, mostly because that's closer to me. I mean, both venues have, you know, great sound systems and all of that. I just prefer Reverb because it's not downtown. I mean, that's just an Omaha thing. Anyways, if you haven't heard Speedy Ortiz's new record, Rabbit Rabbit, I would check that out. I would absolutely check out Spacemoth's album. It is incredible. And actually, if truth be told, I mean, in the end, I walked out of there being like, I think Spacemoth was better tonight. That was an amazing, amazing show. And that's all I wanted to tell you about the show, folks. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. Take care.